Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for joining me today. We are going to do a video today where we are showcasing painting an entire piece with a new paint. I have never used this paint before. I'm super excited to use it. I did some reading about it after a few people had asked me if I've ever used it before, and I had a couple subscribers inquire if I would do a review video on it. So after reading about it, piqued my curiosity. I contacted the company and they sent me some paint, some wax, and a brush. I have already used the brush on a different project and I actually really loved it. Have not used the paint yet. I just used the brush with a different paint and I really liked it. So we're going to use that brush today too in the video. I chose the paint color, so that was pretty exciting. They said just to go ahead and pick whatever color you wanted, and so I picked this beautiful color called Slate. It's kind of a bluish gray. And yeah, so let me show you the paint I'm talking about. The paint that we are going to use today is called Jolie paints. If you've never heard of it before, it is a really cool paint. I opened it just to go ahead and check out the color because I was super anxious to see how it looked. So let me show you the little sample. This is the color we're going to use today, and it is just beautiful. So this is a matte finish paint. It does have to be sealed, so they sent me a large wax, and I'm just so incredibly impressed. They sent me the large can. Normally what you'll end up getting when you contact a company is they'll give you the small stuff, and I'm not kidding you guys. They gave me the large wax and the large paint, so I'm super excited to try it on a piece. I have been waiting and haven't done it yet, so I've been waiting to do this together with you guys. So we're gonna do this 3-drawer, it's kind of a large nightstand, maybe small, tiny little dresser. So super excited to get started with you. I will talk about the paint during the video. I will say just in the beginning of the video, their website is awesome. I found out everything I needed to know about the paint through their website. They have all types of information, not just, hey, here's our colors and here's about us. They give you different tips, they give you different techniques on how to do different looks. Just by merely using their brush, creating different techniques. So it's really, really cool. I definitely suggest if you're interested in this paint, check out their website. I'm going to go ahead and list everything down below so that you can go ahead and have easy access to that at the end of the video. But without further ado, let's go ahead and turn the camera around, check out the piece we're going to get started with, and get started. Okay? All right, you guys, so this is the piece that we're going to be working on today. I have already prepped it and cleaned it. I've started to do the stain top. I'm going to do the dark stain top with this slate. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. So I've already started that process, but I've gone ahead and cleaned my piece off camera. I will take off the hardware and I will take the drawers out. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I just wanted to show you the piece in its entirety so you can see what we're working with before and how we're going to transform this with the Jolie paint. Okay, so stay tuned. Okay guys, so we are ready to get started. I have poured my paint out into a disposable dish. That's usually how I do things, especially when it's in the can. It's just easier and cleaner to work out of and kind of less waste, to be honest with you. So this is the color. How pretty is that? Oh, I'm so excited to get this started. I am going to use the Jolie brush that they sent me. I actually really do like this brush. It's a little different. Let me show it to you. It's a little different than the brushes that I normally use. I do have another one of my brushes that's the Klingon 30, I believe, F30, and it's a little bit thinner, and that is really good for in here. So we're going to go ahead and get this paint started. This is a water-based, non-toxic paint. This can be used on furniture. It can be used on walls. It can be used on all sorts of things. So it does, like I said earlier, have to be sealed. So just make sure that you know that. Some paints do not need a sealer. This definitely does, or you will not have a long-lasting piece. But in my opinion, even ones that have the built-in sealers, I still seal them just for the longevity and durability. And I actually really like the way the sealer looks. So I'm excited to try the wax too, because that also creates a different look on the finished piece. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this paint on and see what we think. Like I said, I've not painted with this at all yet. All I've done at this point is done a little tiny test piece, and that was it. So I'm actually going to start with my Klingon brush because the way I paint my furniture is I start on the inside trim and then I work out. So we're going to go ahead and get this paint laid down, and then we will go ahead and talk a little bit more about it as I go over the entire piece. But like I said in the very first segment, this is very new to me. I have never used this paint. And when somebody had suggested that I give it a try, I was super curious because I have tried so many paints, and if you guys are subscribers and follow me, you know I've done a ton of review videos. So first and foremost, when I talk about paints, I like to talk about the customer service and their website, the delivery. All of that is kind of plays a part in what I think of the paint line. So as I mentioned earlier, they have an excellent website. So I did really love that about the company. So far, their customer service has been excellent. When I spoke to a representative at the company, they were super helpful, very nice, asked if I needed anything whatsoever, had any process questions, I could give them a call or email, which I thought was fantastic. Jolie is a smaller company, and I sometimes think that you get such great service from the smaller companies. So they are growing, but I just absolutely loved the customer service I received. They shipped out my products. They arrived totally packaged, so nice. I'll throw in a picture at the end of the video because I did take one, but it came boxed and then boxed again, and it was just beautifully wrapped. It was no problems with anything when it showed up. And sometimes when you get paint shipped to you, and I do a lot of, I receive a lot of paint through the mail, and sometimes you can get, I've had just once, I think once or twice, a little explosion. So it's really nice when they pack it really well, because that's part of the whole process, right? I mean, what do you think when on your doorstep you're super excited to get something and it shows up and it's a complete and utter disaster, right? Your first impression is kind of, Well, the can came with the little clips that seal it. It came wrapped really well. It had all kinds of protective wrapping around it, so really, really great job when they sent it. So I don't have a Jolie retailer near me, and so shipping would be the only option, so it's nice to know that that's how things arrive, very safely and nicely. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started getting this inner area done. And then once I move to the side area here, I'll be able to get a better idea of how the paint spreads, how it dries. This is a quick drying paint, it says. It's pretty much the same as most of the other furniture paints out there. I would say probably about 2 hours before you recoat, and that's pretty typical. So it does say it's a fast drying paint, so we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and time this whole thing and see how it goes. So while I go ahead and paint this, I won't bore you with any more stuff. We're just going to go ahead and get it done. Okay, I do want to go ahead and show you guys the coverage on the first coat. I've gone ahead and done the inner frame here, and I just kind of sped that up because there's no reason for you guys to have to watch that boring part. But so far, I really love the coverage. That's one of the things that I really like to talk about when I'm doing these review videos. A lot of these paints will tell you 2 coats will cover and you're good to go. As you can see, I'm working with a darker piece. I did not prime this piece, and I would have to say that, and I usually don't prime my pieces unless it's like a white that I'm going over with cherry, mahogany, something really deep and dark. In this case, I just didn't feel the need to have to do it, and the coverage is really good. So we've got the 1 coat on. It's still drying down, obviously, because I just finished it. But I will say, and I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see, but I will show you. The coverage is really very good. I really like the coverage so far. So I would probably venture to say that, yeah, 2 coats and you're going to be totally covered and good to go. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the Jolie brush now, and I'm going to get this on the body of the rest of the piece, and we will see how that works. Okay? bit about the paint while this is drying. I went ahead and I did, and actually I did it kind of in fast forward for you guys to see. I said I was going to do it off camera, but what I wanted to do on the other side was I wanted to do it with my Klingon brush. That is the brush that I always test all my paints with, and so I always know that paint is laying down exactly the same with the same tools. Does that make sense? So basically, if I use a different brush and a different paint every time, I can't tell if I'm having a hard time because of the brush or am I having a hard time because of the paint, if I'm having a hard time at all. So what I like to do, because I wanted to use the Jolie brush as well, I did the other side in the Klingon brush just to kind of see handling, how it went on, was it different, and how does it dry down? Do I have more brush strokes with the Jolie side when I don't want them, or is the Klingon side smoother? So this is not a comparison for brushes, it's just helps me give you a really honest review of the paint if I use the same tools that I'm used to using. So that's kind of what I did. I did half on with one brush and half the other side with the Jolie brush. So it is still drying down. I did want to make a correction. I typically wait 2 hours before recoating. That's typically a question I get asked all the time, is how fast does the paint dry? This paint actually says it dries within 30 to 45 minutes, where it's no longer cool to the touch. That's pretty much, that cool to the touch thing is pretty much standard with most paint lines, but this does say it's a fast drying paint, and they do say on their site that it is 30 to 45 minutes. Now for me, you know, I would probably, given that time frame, I would probably go ahead and feel comfortable on a day where it's dry, the temperatures are warm, recoating within that hour, but normally I wait 2. So I said that earlier, and I just wanted to correct myself that with this paint line, they do say 30 to 45 minutes, it is dry. So you can also tell when it's dry with the darker colors because the pigment does change, and I do see that for sure behind me. This section here is dry, and so there is a major color change between when it's wet and when it's dry, and I love the color that it's drying down to because it's deepening up and darkening up a little bit, and I really enjoy that color. So just to give you guys an idea, this side that I painted the Jolie with the Jolie brush, I didn't have any problems whatsoever, but when I used my Klingon brush, I just felt more comfortable. Now that could just be me because that's what I'm used to using. I feel like it went on a little bit smoother, a little easier for me, and it absolutely has no drag. So, but the brushes, keep in mind, that I'm using are 100% different brushes. So that would probably attribute to that, why I felt differently, because the brushes are different. So the Jolie brush, like I said, I would definitely recommend. I do like it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead now and look at the side done with the Jolie brush, and I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see up really close. It laid down very nicely. I have no complaints at all with this Jolie brush. It's just different than what I'm normally used to working with, but in the end, they both sides come out absolutely beautiful, and I had no problems with the brush itself, no hairs coming out, and the coverage is very, very good. So I'm zooming in now so you guys can really take a look and see that entire side. This is the Klingon side, and again, you've got a little bit of that peek through. That's completely normal for first coat coverages, and I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see how that one looks up really close. They both did such an excellent job, and like I said, in the end, you would never know I used 2 different brushes. Okay, so you can definitely sand this in between. Now is the time between first and second coat that you'd want to go ahead if you need to smooth it. I'm going to tell you at this point, using 2 different brushes, I do not have a need to sand in between at all. One of the reasons is the texture of this paint is super duper smooth, and they do say that on their site. So that claim, 100% true. There's no texture, there's no, for a matte paint, it is so smooth. So there's no chalkiness to it, there's no grit to it. So I'm going in right now with the second coat, and I am just gonna go ahead and get it done. Now, Okay guys, so I've gone ahead and finished the other side off camera as I said I would, and so it is now drying down. I'm gonna go ahead and let that set up, and then I'll show you that finished second coat. But I have to tell you, I am super impressed with the application of the second coat. I have worked with so many different paints, and I have run into that issue where that second coat just doesn't go on as well. Typically, once you get your first coat down and then you start to apply multiple coats after that, now you've got something to grab onto. So sometimes you have a little bit of a challenge having such a smooth application with that second coat, or you don't have a lot of workability time with it. I have to say, for this being as fast of a drying paint as it is, I had quite a nice workability time with that second coat, and I did not have any problems whatsoever with drag or anything that caused me to be frustrated with that second coat. I never grabbed for a cup of water, I never wet down my brush, and I went back over my second coat continually. I would say probably a good 3 times, and it is drying beautifully. I had no drag issue, no brush mark issue, so I'm really impressed with the way that the second coat goes on. I'm pretty sure maybe in a few spots I'm gonna have to go ahead and apply some more paint where I might have missed in a little corner or what have you, but the second coat coverage is looking really fantastic. So as soon as that dries down, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys that. But so far, I am really liking this new paint, and I'm super impressed with the application part of it. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. The color is exactly actually what I thought it was going to be. When I put it on wet, I thought it was a little bit light, but as it dried down, it totally darkened. So after the second coat dries down, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. I'm not going to do my recap and final review until the very end, because we're going to try in this video the Jolie wax as well, and I have to wait for that. So we have to wait until the next day to go ahead and apply that. So today, I will go ahead and show you that second coat. Tomorrow we'll go ahead and put on the wax, and then we will do our final review. I'll give you a final reveal and show you what it looks like. But so far, I'm really liking this paint. Super easy working with it. So I'll go ahead and show you guys in just a little bit once that second coat is all dried. Okay, you guys, so here's the piece. Second coat, totally dried down. I'm gonna zoom in just a second so you can see really up close and see how beautiful the coverage and the finish. It's just gorgeous. It covers so well, and like I said in that last segment, my goodness, it is so nice to apply that second coat. So here it is in its entirety. Now we're going to go ahead and let this sit overnight, and tomorrow we'll come back and do the wax together. So I am super loving the color. It is very, I'm looking at it on camera as well as above the camera, and the color is pretty darn close. It's a beautiful slate blue gray, and it absolutely just dried down just gorgeous. So super smooth too. So we'll be back tomorrow and we'll do the wax together. Okay guys, we are back. We are ready for day 2, our Jolie paint project, which is the wax part. So we have our wax, I've got my brush, I'm ready to go. A couple of things about wax. So what I like to do is work in small sections. Don't try to do an entire side of the piece and then work it from there. The smaller sections you work, the easier it is for you to manipulate your product. Waxing is not hard. It is actually one of the easier sealers to work with, in my opinion. I've done both. I've done the polys and I've done the waxing. Just depends on what project I'm working on and what look I'm going for. So keep in mind that as beautiful as this looks, it has to be sealed. We don't want to leave it unsealed because it will not have the durability and longevity, and then you're just not going to be happy. So with the Jolie paint, definitely seal it. If wax is not your preferred method, then definitely do some research to figure out what other options that you would like to explore. Okay guys, I am ready to go ahead and get started. I have opened the can of wax, and I always like to smell my products. I didn't talk about that with the paint, but I was going to do that in the final review. And it doesn't have a real strong odor, and neither does the paint, honestly. Some paints really can be very fragrant, and this no, just kind of smells like wax. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I've got my wax brush, my wax, and I use these Wipe All rags. They're a lint-free cloth that they're disposable. I can just get rid of them. I used to use the bag of rags, but I found that left too much lint behind, and when you're working with wax, it kind of just sucks right to it. So these I really like. I'll put a link down below in the video so that you guys know what it is that I'm working with, because they really do work very well. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in now and we'll get started on doing our wax. Okay, you guys, so you saw that I worked on this little section here of the piece, and I worked in very small circular motions, wiping off each time. Now, I'm not using a lot of pressure wiping that off. You really don't need to. As long as you're not putting on a ton of wax, then you don't need to do that. So I did exactly the way you're supposed to. Put on a light amount of wax, and then I wiped back that little area. Then what I did was I overlapped and I went into my secondary area, same thing, repeated with the third. So very, very easy. And when you're wiping it back, you're basically just kind of giving it a wipe. You can see it. It might be hard to see on camera, but you definitely can see it in person when you're wiping it back. When you're working with the right amount of wax, you don't see any of that really left behind. You don't see those wipe marks or that haze. Don't be afraid if you see a little color on your towel. That's okay. That's pretty normal and standard that's gonna happen. Let me show you. My brush has absolutely no color on it, but sometimes, so I'm not taking off any of the paint color, but sometimes when you're applying a little bit of pressure with the rag and you're wiping back, you're getting a little bit of that's gonna come off, but let me show you. It's really not the same color as the piece. It's kind of like a combination of the wax itself and then a tiny, tiny bit of the color of the piece, but not much. Also change your rag around. Don't continue to use the same area and wipe continually, because you're going to have wax building up on that pad. So you're going to turn it around, turn it over. I did that several times and good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of this piece off camera with the wax. You kind of get the gist. If you have any questions, definitely list them down below and I'll make sure that I address those. But the waxing part of it's pretty easy, and I don't want to bore you with watching me wax the entire piece. I'm going to show you as soon as I'm done though what it looks like. Okay, you guys, here is the finished wax project. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of go around it so you guys can kind of just see. I'm not going to put my hardware on until I let it dry up for a little while. I always kind of just leave that off till the very last. But it came out absolutely beautiful, and I'm really happy with the finish. There's no dry marks. There's no swipe marks from my wiping off. But we will talk a little bit more about the whole process in the final recap and review. Hey guys, that is it. We are at the end of our Jolie paint project video. I'm super excited the way that it turned out. I will go ahead and add a still photo at the end of the video here so you guys can see the piece in its entirety, but I really love the way it came out. So let's go ahead and do our recap and review of the products that we used today. So first of all, I just want to say that I really enjoyed working with the Jolie paint company because their customer service is super excellent. Their website is very informative. They have video tutorials, they have guides that you can download. They have a wealth of information on their website, just not only about their product, but certain techniques that you can do with their products. But it's just awesome. I love when I find a line of paint that is super informative. Their FAQ section is huge. So, I mean, all the questions that you could possibly think of, they have put on there. So super awesome. So really, really liked that. The paint itself. I enjoyed working with this paint. You never know when you're going to start working with a new product if you're going to like it, obviously, because you've never used it before. So it's kind of scary going in and just going, I'm starting with a piece, right? Because when you're doing it on a practice board, you can just get rid of the practice board. Not as easy when you're working on a piece, but it was exciting and I really did enjoy the way it went down. Just to review, the first coat, I really went down very very flawlessly, no problems. The coverage was normal for a first coat coverage. We obviously had some peek through, but that's to be expected because there is no paint that's going to cover in one coat, and this doesn't claim to be that type of paint anyway. So second coat laid down super nice. You never know what you're going to get. Sometimes once you get that first coat on and now you've got something for that second coat to grab onto, it can be a little challenging. I have worked with paints that have been. This was fairly easy to work with. I did not need to water down my area, spray it, dip it in water, nothing. It went on very well. The workability time that I had, I went over probably 2 or 3 times on my second coat sections and I had no problems. The smooth finish, it wasn't affected. So that I really, really liked. I have worked with paint lines before that they are so quick drying, by the time you go to finagle that second coat and maybe try to get something to lay down a little bit better, it's already dry and now you've got drag marks. Didn't experience that at all with this paint. So I really, really liked that. So that was a real plus for me. 2 coats covered the piece. I had to go back in a few small areas where operator error, I missed a little section. So 2 coats was it. I did not do 3 coats on this piece. And again, I'm going to mention that that can differ because lighter colors sometimes tend to need more coats of paint. So just keep that in mind. So the price point for this, the quart, which I have here and that I worked with, was $39.95. That's pretty average for a quart. Most people pay about $17.99 for a pint, which is smaller obviously, and $39.95 for a quart is pretty competitive. So I'd say that the pricing is pretty spot on with other paint lines. They also do make a smaller sample size and that runs $14.95. So that would be good for maybe a really small project or if you just want to try out the paint. So price point was really, I think, right in line with everybody else. The wax I really liked. I do like to talk about the smell. The paint did not have an odor that I felt was at all even kind of there, so that was really nice. Some paints can be really fragrant, and if you're working indoors, then sometimes that could be an issue. I did not experience any smell with the paint or the wax. It just smelled like wax, to be honest with you. It didn't have a real heavy chemical smell or anything like that, and some waxes that I've worked with in the past have. So it was really nice to work with the wax as well. I really enjoyed being able to work with more than just one product. Some of my reviews I've done, I've only had just the paint from that product line. When Jolie sent me my package, I was super impressed that they sent me the wax to be able to get the whole experience. So I really did like that. The wax went on really nicely, and the finish of it is going to be just beautiful. So I really enjoyed that. What else? I'm trying to think of all my normals that I go through. Color selection. God, how could I forget that? That's one of the first things that I usually talk about. 42 colors, so they have a very ample color selection. You can mix and match the colors, so that also is to your advantage. One of the things that I get asked often is, can I paint over a wax finish? Okay, and the answer is not always yes, but here's the cool thing with Jolie paint line, right? When, let's say I've painted this piece that we worked on today, I've waxed it, and then I change my mind. In about a month or 2, I'm ready to give it a makeover and do something else. Can I paint over it again? The answer is yes, you can. With Jolie paint, you can use their paint over their wax. With that being said, what if I want to switch paint lines and I don't want to go over it with Jolie paint? Well, then you're going to have to remove the wax. There's something in their formula that works together that allows their paint and their wax to not have a reaction and be painted upon. So if you're going to use this, just keep that in mind. That's a really cool thing. I've waxed it. Can I paint over it? Okay. So if you stick with their line, you absolutely can. Change lines, you're going to go ahead and remove that wax. That's just something kind of cool. All this information is on their website. So you're going to get all sorts of information that probably more than you'll probably want for just getting started. But definitely visit their website and check it out. I just wanted to tell you guys, thank you so much for watching today. Thank you for being subscribers. I appreciate it very much. Keep subscribing so you can continue to get my videos. If you have any questions or comments, please list them down below. As you know, I will definitely get back to you. And Jolie, thank you very much for this opportunity to try out your paint. It was a true pleasurable experience, and I definitely will be using this paint in the future. Thanks so much, you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.